Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you can see it and you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. Quick, name a Rolex Daytona equivalent, roughly 40 millimeters, stainless steel, automatic, full bracelet, 100 meters water resistant, and no date, and it has to be a chronograph. You're going to come up pretty short unless you're wearing a Breguet Type 20 3800 ST. This watch is the most unlikely Rolex Daytona alternative you'll ever encounter, and yet in almost every respect it lines up with the legendary Cosmograph in style, substance, and specification. It's even a historical legend in its own right, the icon of the Breguet manufacturer, the one enduring model from the time when Breguet actually made serious watches for serious people. So the legacy of the watch stretches back to 1954 and the French military Type 20 contract, but this is very much a modern luxury watch. Relaunched in 1994, there were two versions, the Transatlantique and the Aeronavale, and what we have right here is the Aeronavale, reference 3800 ST, perfectly symmetrical dial with no date and an easy-to-wear 39.5 millimeters in stainless steel. On my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, it wears easily and comfortably. I'll even mention that the watch, though not thin, does have a generously domed sapphire and a sloped conical bezel, so at 14.4 millimeters thick, this one will fit underneath a dress cuff. Lug-to-lug, the watch is compact and traditionally sized, 45.5 millimeters lug-to-lug. If you do include the solid end links of the bracelet, then it has an impressive wrist stance of just over 52 millimeters, 52.6, with the spacing between the lugs remarkably prescient. But in the early 1990s, Breguet redesigned the case with a 21 millimeter lug spacing, broader than almost anything else at the time, which is one of the reasons this historically inspired watch still looks like a modern timepiece on the wrist. Now the bracelet is very comfortable and handsome. All of high polish, you can see it's a three-link design that manages to innovate. Instead of simply copying the ubiquitous Rolex three-link Oyster, you have staggered alignment of links as well as staggered size, and there's a little bit of a shoulder knurling. You can see there's a step on the edge of the outer links. Underneath, you can see big gaps to avoid pinching skin, pulling hair, or trapping wrist heat, and then a full deploying clasp, as you can see. Quite low in profile when closed. It's anything but a dive clasp, so less susceptible to desk diving injuries. Doesn't stick its head above the parapet, and it's nice and clean and symmetrical when closed. Nothing to indicate the partition point. Turn it all over. It's a typical modern Breguet case, which is to say it has handsome and fluid lugs with a semi-teardrop undertuck, and then there's a coined case flank, which is handsome and correct, as the Type 20 historically has featured this design through multiple iterations. Now the bezel is a 60-minute calibration, but it's a bidirectional rotating unit. So of high polish with lacquered inlay, you can see the condition of this case is excellent because all of the original lacquer in the calibrations of the bezel present and correct. The detent is positive, but it is a bidirectional rotating pilot-style bezel rather than a unidirectional rotating dive-style bezel. Line it up with the minute hand, and now you have 0 to 60-minute timer, which is helpful because traditional chronographs typically only feature a 30-minute register, and that's the case here. With a somewhat abstract, oversized register, it's a little bit of a different look, so if you do want to be meticulous about your minutes, you might want to go with the bezel over the chronograph. That said, if you want to time increments of seconds, especially in rapid succession, the flyback chronograph has your number. It is a flyback chronograph caliber. It is a 582Q, which means it's based on the Tank Tough historic Lemania 1350, which is itself a landmark chronograph and one of the finest cam-style chronographs you will encounter. 48-hour power reserve, 25 joules, 28,800 vibration per hour beat rate. It has that flyback functionality, and thanks to a robust case construction, 100-meter water resistance makes this aviator-style chronograph quite swimmable. Now, a feature I want to shout out real quick is that this dial is signed T, but it's a Luminova dial, because Breguet, like Rolex, recognizes that to maintain the integrity of its older watches, it needs to have a T-signed dial in the event of a dial replacement due to damage. And here's the thing. They continue to sign the dial T even as everything has been ported over to Super Luminova, so you maintain the vintage look of the dial, and it is period correct in its markings, but it is a Super Luminova dial, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. Also appreciate the fact that Breguet thought ahead and made the chronograph functional at night, as both chronograph seconds and chronograph minutes are fully loomed. The dial, however, is simple and minimalist with no date aperture to mar its clean and flush lines. You can see this handsome unlikely Rolex Daytona rival and make it yours on the watch box. Breguet Type 20, Aeronavale 3800 ST. As you can see, torch-like luminova, and uniquely, the chronograph register completely loomed both the hand and the indices. You could see chronograph seconds as well as chronograph minutes in full while the watch is operating in nocturnal mode. See it by day and make it yours on the watch box.